Revealed, how an inspiring CEO's daughter helped a struggling mom, changing their lives forever. In a small suburban town in Ohio, Sarah felt like a ghost haunting familiar streets. Every morning, she'd walk past the gleaming houses with manicured lawns, dragging her two kids, Anna and Benny, to the community center. There, among the bright colors and hopeful smiles, she tried to find solace. But the shadows of her reality loomed large. Her retail job had vanished in the pandemic's aftermath, and her savings were dwindling. Just writing the grocery list was a gut-wrenching act of acceptance that she was now, in some circles, a statistic. Those poor kids, she could hear whispers whenever she ventured out. The disdain was palpable, the judgment sharp. Sarah felt the weight of the world pressing down on her, a sadness sitting heavy on her chest. Every penny counted, every glance turned her stomach. Yet, she pushed forward, fueled by a love that surged through her veins. It was more than enough for Anna and Benny to thrive. Meanwhile, in the skyscrapers of Columbus, Emma was trapped in her own gilded cage. The daughter of a powerful CEO, she had everything, yet felt nothing. The loneliness gnawed at her soul, each luxe lunch and gala evening emphasizing her disconnection from happiness. Desperate to make a difference, she signed up to volunteer at a local community center, hoping it would fill the emptiness within, even if just a little. When Benny enrolled in the coding class Emma was teaching, their worlds collided. The first day was incredibly awkward. Emma, radiating privilege and optimism, made assumptions about Benny's life that felt off-key. Benny, who was shy and bewildered, registered his confusion in wide-eyed stares rather than words. Sarah noticed the way Emma struggled to connect, and despite her own bitter experiences, she admired Emma's effort. The real breakthrough came when Sarah decided to volunteer at the center. As the two women crossed paths, they started to share more than just conversations. Their laughter echoed through the empty halls, stories of struggles and dreams intertwining in unexpected ways. Sarah spoke of sleepless nights worrying about bills while Emma shared the pressures of maintaining family expectations. They realized that while their worlds seemed worlds apart, they each carried burdens in their hearts. But just as their friendship began to blossom, they faced a staggering crisis. The community center was at risk of closing due to funding cuts. For Sarah, it was her lifeline, a place filled with support and hope. For Emma, it had become a deeply personal battleground where she could prove her worth beyond her last name. They powered up to join forces, but the daunting class divide loomed like a storm cloud over them. As word spread about the meeting to secure funding, uncertainties hung in the air. They'd have to deliver their plan to the community, battling not just bureaucracy but the stereotypes attached to their lives. And there, as the crowd gathered, Sarah glanced at Emma, a silent understanding passed between them. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the familiar faces of neighbors and friends, they felt a wave of emotion swell. Could they really inspire the community to rally behind them? Just as Sarah stepped forward, her heart racing in her chest, doubt crept in. Would their entwined destinies be enough to change not just their lives but those of everyone around them? As Sarah stood at the front of the dimly lit community center, the murmurs of the crowd swirled around her like storm clouds. She could feel her heart pounding, each beat echoing in her ears. Anxiety washed over her, mingling with adrenaline. Emma stood beside her, her expression a mix of determination and fear. They were stepping into the unknown together, and there was no turning back. "Thank you all for coming," Sarah began, her voice trembling slightly. She fought against the tightness in her throat, drawing strength from the warmth of Emma's presence. "We're here to talk about what this community center means to us." As she spoke, she saw faces of neighbors who had once looked at her with pity, now looking back with curiosity. Some held their children close, others sat with arms crossed, skeptically waiting for her next words. Sarah swallowed hard, forcing herself to go on. "This place has been a lifeline for my children and me," she continued. "It's a safe haven, a place where we can come together as a community, no matter our backgrounds." Emma stepped in, confidence blooming as she started to share her own perspective. "And for me, it's been a chance to see the true strength and resilience of this community. It's not just about classes or activities. It's about the bonds we create, the support we give each other. We cannot lose that." But even with their heartfelt words, hesitation lingered in the air. Some attendees shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Sarah's heart sank when she noticed a few families, those who once scarcely acknowledged her, now whispering to one another. There were expressions of doubt and skepticism, the divide between them growing more pronounced. "What makes you two think you can save this place?" A voice echoed from the back, harsh and cutting. It pierced through her rising confidence, sending chills down her spine. Sarah's breath caught. She glanced at Emma, who met her gaze with a reassuring nod. This was their moment to fight back, to show what they were made of. "We believe in community," Emma declared, her voice strong. "No matter our differences, we all want a better future for our families. This center can be that future if we work together." Emboldened by Emma's conviction, Sarah took a deep breath. "We've seen what this center offers. We've felt the love and care that fills these walls. But we need your help to keep the lights on. We need your ideas, your voices, and your support." As the words fell from her lips, a ripple of energy surged through the crowd. Some fattened their arms, leaning in, while others whispered cautiously among themselves. Hope flickered like a candle in the dark, threatening to spark something greater. "Let us brainstorm," Sarah continued, sensing the shift. "How can we raise funds? What can we do together?" The atmosphere changed slowly, tension easing. People began to mutter suggestions. "How about a fundraiser?" Someone called from the side. "We could host a community potluck. Not just food, but a talent show," echoed another. "We all have something to share, let us showcase it." Sarah and Emma exchanged a hopeful glance. Could this really be happening? They had turned the tide, igniting a flicker of excitement among the crowd. But just as they started to feel the energy pulse in the room, Sarah caught wind of a familiar figure slinking at the back. Distrust floated from a face she recognized, the director of a competing community project, someone who had always made their lives harder. With that, doubt washed over her once more. Would this struggle bring them closer together, or tear them apart? The questions hung heavy between them as they stood united against a world that would underestimate them. What would happen next? Would they rally the community as support or face unforeseen challenges that would break them apart? The crowd buzzed with new energy, and just as Sarah opened her mouth to respond to the ideas, the door swung open. A group of men in suits walked in, carrying an air of authority that sent a shiver through the gathering. And there, standing at the entrance, was the last person Sarah expected to see. What did they want? How would they respond? Hope and anxiety swirled within as she braced for the moment that could change everything. The moment froze. Sarah's mind raced. Why were they here? The well-dressed men, with their polished shoes and intimidating presence, disrupted the fledgling energy that had been building in the room. She felt Emma's hand squeeze hers tightly, a silent signal that they needed to stay strong. "Excuse us," one of the men said, stepping forward with a smile that seemed rehearsed, yet didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm Mr. Lawson, and these are my associates from the Neighborhood Development Program. We've been listening to your discussion about the community center." A few murmurs rippled through the crowd. Sarah's heart sank. This was the type of organization they had hoped to join forces with, not to be judged by. "What are you proposing?" Emma asked, her voice clear despite the tension. Mr. Lawson adjusted his tie, glancing around at the audience. We're committed to revitalizing community hubs like this one. However, we've found that without financial backing and a solid plan, many projects fall short. We'd like to discuss possible partnerships. Partnerships? Sarah echoed, her expression one of confusion and wariness. What exactly does that mean for us? The room hushed, all eyes now on Mr. Lawson. We can provide funding and resources, he said slowly, but we need you to prove that this community center can be self-sustaining. It's imperative that the local families support it and see it as a viable resource. The implications of his words struck like lightning. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. It was one thing to rally the community, it was another to meet the expectations of outsiders. Still, she forced herself to stay composed. What if we can't meet those expectations? Then we would have to pull our support, Mr. Lawson replied, his tone flat. This is not just about passion, it's about practicality. The reality of her dream threatened to crumble. Had she and Emma opened a door only to lead everyone to a cliff? Emma cleared her throat. And what are you suggesting we do, exactly? Host events, increase outreach, find alternatives to reach families that don't currently participate, Mr. Lawson lectured, his demeanor professional but lacking warmth. Engage your community in a way that makes them feel invested. Sarah glanced around the room. Eyes were wide with uncertainty, and murmurings began yet again. There were whispers of doubt, fear creeping like weeds into the hope they had just started to grow. What if we fail? Someone finally muttered from the back, breaking the tension like a brittle twig snapping underfoot. Then perhaps it's time to reevaluate this center's significance, Mr. Lawson said, the directness of his statement sending chills through Sarah. As the discomfort settled in, a scrappy teenager stood up from the crowd. But we can't give up without trying. We need this center. It's ours. His voice sparked a shift. One person, then another, began to voice their support. Yeah. We need to fight for it. My kids love it here. The swell of passion was undeniable. Sarah's heart swelled as she took in the collective energy building around her once more. Emma beamed, the fire reigniting in her eyes. See? Emma laughed, half in disbelief. This is what it's about. We have to show them that we want it, that we believe in this space. Mr. Lawson observed the room, his earlier confidence cracking just a little. If you're willing to commit to the work, we'll have to discuss a timeline for reviewing the progress. We'll work hard. Sarah exclaimed, emboldened by the encouragement of the crowd. We can't afford not to. As the meeting continued, a renewed sense of purpose swept through Sarah. They would not just survive, they would thrive. But as exhilaration filled her, a still voice nagged at her mind. What if this was merely the beginning of an even tougher battle? Would they really be able to pull together the community and keep the center alive against mounting pressures? The sound of a phone buzzing from one of the men broke her contemplation. As he answered, Sarah caught a few words concerns about funding in her stomach twisted. What new challenge awaited them just around the corner? The chatter in the room buzzed around her like static, but Sarah's mind was trapped in a whirlpool of thoughts. Concerns about funding, the phrase looped through her head, a relentless reminder of the fragility of their dreams. She glanced at Emma, who was animatedly discussing ideas with a few community members, their expressions alive with determination. Sarah squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, trying to ground herself. This was more than just a project, this was about families, futures, and their shared hope. But in the pit of her stomach, uncertainty churned. Could they really make the community center a self-sustaining haven? She wanted to believe that everyone would pitch in, would recognize its worth, but doubt crept in like a shadow. As the meeting drew to a close, Emma stepped back to Sarah's side, her smile bright but eyes scanning the throng of faces, searching for reassurance. We can do this, right? A wave of determination swept through Sarah. Yes, we have to. Just then, Mr. Lawson cleared his throat, regaining the room's focus. Let us set some goals. A meeting next week to outline your strategies. I want to see tangible plans. Are you all ready? Nods and murmurs of agreement filled the air, but Sarah felt a pit in her stomach deepen. What if it wasn't enough? As the crowd began to disperse, a small girl approached Sarah, her eyes wide and hopeful. Miss Sarah, can we have dance classes again? They were so much fun. The sincerity in her voice warmed something inside Sarah. The center meant so much to these kids and families. Of course, sweetie. We're going to make sure there are lots of activities here. Just wait and see. After the girls scampered away, Emma turned to Sarah. You see? This is what we're fighting for. We can't let them down. In that moment, Sarah felt her resolve harden. We won tea. We're going to make this happen, no matter what. Yet, the question lingered, what if they hit roadblocks that they couldn't navigate? Over the following days, Sarah immersed herself in planning. She crafted lists, gathered volunteers, and brainstormed creative workshops. She felt the push and pull of excitement and dread, knowing every detail counted. Emma was a whirlwind of events, reaching out to locals, organizing meetings, and rallying support. Then came the first planning meeting. Nervous energy thrummed in Sarah's veins as they settled into fold-out chairs, a mixture of community members, parents, and enthusiastic teens filling the space. Everyone was eager to contribute, their eyes glinting with determination. But as the discussions unfurled, an unexpected voice spoke up from the back, a mother, recently laid off, sharing openly about her struggles. I want to help, but we're scared. What if we can't make it? What if we fail? Her honesty silenced the room. Sarah's pulse raced as empathy surged within her. She understood that fear, she felt it deep down. Time slowed. Sarah opened her mouth to speak, but words failed her. What could she say that would lift their spirits? How could she be a beacon of hope when she felt so unsure herself? Emma nudged her gently, encouragingly. You've got this, she whispered. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stood tall. We have to confront those fears together. This isn't just about funding, it's about community. We can learn from each other's struggles. Look around you, the support is here. Let us figure it out together. The women shared hopeful glances, and a wave of murmurs of agreement rippled through the audience. But as the adrenaline coursed through her, an icy fear crept back in. What if their hearts were in the right place, yet the obstacles were insurmountable? What if they found themselves losing the very thing they fought to protect? As Sarah dismissed the meeting, a dark thought shivered through her mind. Who would sacrifice more for the center, a mother facing unemployment or a parent striving to support their children while battling life's challenges? It wasn't just a question of funding anymore, it was a question of trust, desperation, and the sheer will to survive. That night, Sarah lay awake, thoughts swirling like a tempest. She could almost hear the doubts whisper, what if this is just the start of something heartbreakingly impossible? The next morning, as the sun broke through her window, she found herself at a crossroads. Would she step up and galvanize the community, or would the weight of their expectations crush them all? She didn't know what lay ahead, but a sense of clarity began to settle in. The fear, it wasn't the end, it could be the beginning of something extraordinary. But were they truly ready to navigate the storm? What challenges awaited them as they pushed forward for the sake of their future? The following week arrived faster than Sarah expected, a whirlwind of plans and promises weaving through each day. Community members trickled into the center, eager to share ideas and confront fears. But beneath the surface of excitement, Sarah felt the weight of unanswered questions pressing against her. What if their combined efforts fell short? She stood in front of a makeshift board covered in sticky notes that detailed their objectives and potential workshops. With each glance, her heart raced. Emma approached, her bright eyes sparkling with optimism. Look at all this. We're making progress. Yeah, but is it enough? Sarah replied, biting her lip, the tension palpable between them. We're on a time crunch. What if they start losing faith? Emma put a reassuring hand on Sarah's shoulder. You're overthinking it. Everyone here is rooting for this. They want the center to succeed. Just look at how engaged they are. As the day of the strategy meeting approached, word spread throughout the community about what was at stake. Families began to arrive at the center, a mix of anxious and hopeful faces filling the seats. When the night finally came, the air buzzed with anticipation and uncertainty. Mr. Lawson opened the meeting, and a nervous hush fell over the crowd. Tonight, we'll hear your ideas, your plans, and how each of you can contribute. It's time to make this vision a reality. Who wants to start? A father leaped up first, his voice strong despite the obvious strain in his eyes. I can help with fundraising. My brother-in-law runs a small business. We can organize an event. The room erupted in supportive murmurs, the collective energy palpable. One by one, hands shot up, each person eager to share what they could offer. It felt like a spark, igniting a fire of possibility. Sarah exchanged a glance with Emma, relief washing over her. Maybe, just maybe, their dreams weren't as fragile as she feared. They could really do this together. As the ideas flew, the atmosphere shifted. But then a voice rang out from the back, shaky yet loud. A woman stood, her hands clenched. But what if things don't work out? What if this fizzle out and we're left with nothing? Silence enveloped the room, her words slicing through the momentum they had built. Sarah's heart sank, doubt was an unwelcome guest. She stepped forward, determined to protect the fragile hope surrounding them. I understand your fear. We've all felt it. But if we allow fear to lead us, we're giving up before we even start. This is our chance to change our narrative. The woman nodded, but uncertainty lingered on her face. Sarah continued, her voice steady and strong. This is about more than just funding. It's about creating a legacy for our children. To show them that when we stand together, we can weather any storm. Cheers erupted from the crowd, an instant flip from doubt to resolve. Sarah felt her own heart expand, love and passion flooding the room. But even with this support, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were teetering on the brink of something both exciting and terrifying. As the meeting concluded, Sarah felt a surge of hope, yet it was threaded with an anxious undertone. Would this momentum carry them through the next hurdles? Each person leaving brought new questions. When would the real work begin? Later that night, as she lay in bed, her thoughts danced. Flashes of faces, every single person who had voiced their fears, their dreams swirled in her mind. If they faltered, could she bear the weight of that loss? And just as she was about to drift into sleep, an idea sparked a potential partnership that could change everything. But could she muster the courage to reach out? With the dawn of a new day, the community stood on the precipice of change. But were Sarah and her team truly prepared for what lay ahead? What would that partnership mean for their dreams, and could it finally make the impossible possible? The sun poured in through the kitchen window, illuminating the pile of papers on the table. Sarah blinked at the bright light, still heavy with thoughts from the night before. It felt like her dreams and fears were tangled together now, both alive and restless. Her idea of reaching out loomed large in her mind, demanding attention. Emma entered the kitchen, her energy infectious. Hey, I brought coffee. You look deep in thought. What is going on? I was thinking about that partnership I mentioned last night, Sarah replied, her fingers drumming against the table. Do I really have what it takes to reach out? What if they say no? Emma leaned forward, her voice lowering to emphasize her point. What if they say yes? This could be the break we need. You can't let fear hold you back, Sarah. You need to believe in your vision. A wave of warmth washed over Sarah as she poured the coffee. Emma had a way of cutting through her doubts like a hot knife through butter. Maybe the fear was a normal part of the journey, something everyone felt at some point. The two spent the morning strategizing. Sarah detailed her idea, poring over every aspect, from potential benefits to what the partnership could ultimately mean for the center. Skepticism lingered in her gut, but there was also determination. She could feel it bubbling up. By midday, the weight of the decision had become unbearable. "Okay, I'll do it," Sarah declared. "I'm going to reach out to her this afternoon." The rest of the day crawled by. Each tick of the clock echoed in her mind as she reviewed everything she wanted to say. To her surprise, the echoing anxiety began to morph into excitement. Maybe this was the opportunity they needed, a step toward realizing that impossible dream. When the time finally came, she sat at the edge of her bed, hands trembling as she typed the message. Every word felt monumental. In the heart of it, she shared their hopes, struggles, and genuine belief in what the community center could become. Finally, she pressed send, her heart racing. She could hardly breathe. It felt surreal, a little relief mingled with the adrenaline coursing through her. Not long after, her phone buzzed, jolting her from her deep breath. A response. She hesitated just a moment before opening it. As she read, joy and disbelief swirled together. It was an enthusiastic reply. The CEO's daughter was willing to meet, eager to discuss how they could join forces. Sarah jumped up, nearly spilling a cup of water she had forgotten existed. She rushed to find Emma, who was laughing with some kids in the living room. "Emma! You won't believe it." Emma's brows shot up. "What's up?" "I just heard back. She's interested in meeting. This could actually happen." Cheers erupted in the living room, the kids oblivious to the weight of Sarah's excitement but definitely caught up in the energy. They bounced around her, their laughter infectious, rendering Sarah's insecurities momentarily invisible. But as the shared joy filled the room, doubt crept back in. What if they moved too fast? What if the meeting didn't go as she hoped? The night stretched ahead, filled with possibilities but also potential pitfalls. All Sarah could do was focus on that moment, on the sheer thrill of having sparked a possibility. The break was there, but would she be able to navigate it? What would they say at the meeting? As she drifted off to sleep that night, her heart danced between hope and apprehension. Tomorrow, everything could change. Or everything could stay the same. But she knew one thing for sure: she wasn't backing down. Little did she know, her journey was just beginning, and the next steps would test her resilience in ways she never anticipated. Morning sunlight crept into Sarah's bedroom, warming her face as she stirred awake. Memories of last night's excitement flooded in, and her heart raced at the thought of the meeting ahead. Today would be pivotal, she reminded herself. Deep down, a flicker of fear remained a volatile partner to her hope. With a quick breakfast and half-hearted glances at herself in the mirror, Sarah gathered her notes. She wanted to appear confident, professional. But as she looked over the details, doubt threatened to sideline her action once more. What if she stuttered through her pitch? What if nothing she had planned resonated? Emma broke into her thoughts as she plopped down on Sarah's bed, freshly caffeinated. "You ready for this?" "Not even close," Sarah admitted, rubbing her temples. "What if I blow it? This is just huge." "Hey," Emma said softly but firmly. "This is your chance. You have a vision, remember? Focus on that." With Emma's encouragement ringing in her ears, Sarah finally felt a sense of calm as they drove toward the meeting. Her palms were still sweaty, betraying her more composed facade, but she clenched her fists and took a deep breath. As they arrived at the office, sprawling and modern, the butterflies in her stomach surged. They entered the lobby, greeted by white marble and gleaming steel. A receptionist smiled, pointed them to a waiting area, and Sarah tried to steady herself. In that moment, she imagined the families the community center could serve. The kids who needed after-school programs, the struggling parents who needed support. All the lives she potentially could impact fueled her determination. "See? You're thinking about them," Emma noted, noticing the shift in Sarah's expression. "That's your strength. Keep that fire. Minutes later, an assistant came to fetch them. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as they walked down a long, hushed corridor. With each step, she felt her resolve harden. She wasn't just there to pitch an idea. She was there to advocate for her community. The meeting room was spacious, bathed in natural light. At the end sat a well-dressed woman with an air of authority, the CEO's daughter, whom Sarah had only seen in photos. She looked up from her tablet and smiled warmly, instantly easing some of the tension. "Sarah, Emma, welcome. I'm so glad to meet you both," she beamed, extending her hand. "I've heard a lot of exciting things about your proposal." Looking into her eyes, Sarah felt a flicker of hope. She clasped the hand firmly, aware of the gravity of the moment. "Thank you for taking the time to meet with us," she replied, feeling the weight of her own words. As they settled into the conversation, Sarah spoke passionately about the community center's vision and potential. She shared stories, sketched out plans, and answered questions. To her surprise, the worries that once cocooned her thoughts began to dissipate. Every nod and smile from the woman across the table felt like affirmation. Then, as she outlined her plans for pilot programs, she noticed the CEO's daughter leaning forward in her chair. "This is incredible, Sarah," she said, genuine enthusiasm shining through. "You're tapping into a real need." "But let's talk about funding." At that moment, Sarah's breath caught. Funding. The word echoed like a second heartbeat, filled with potential. For a brief instant, everything else faded to the background. It was just them, the mission, the possibilities blooming before her. As they discussed financial strategies, Sarah's apprehensions morphed into determination. This was it. But just as she began to envision the next steps of their collaboration, what if? A thought flickered in her mind, darkening the bright atmosphere. What if the conversations began to unravel? What if they hit a wall? Her internal questioning was interrupted as Emma squeezed her hand under the table, grounding her in the moment. Suddenly, an unexpected ring from Sarah's phone broke the spell, a text from a familiar, anxious friend. Dread settled in. What could it be? In that split second, Sarah realized that the stakes were higher than she ever anticipated. Sarah's heart raced as she glanced down at her phone. The name glaring back at her was Mia, her friend who was no stranger to turmoil. A sense of urgency gripped her as she unlocked the screen, revealing a single, frantic message: "I really need to talk. It's important." The meeting room buzzed with the excited energy of possibilities, yet a chill ran through Sarah. She was torn. Should she respond? Should she focus on convincing the CEO's daughter that she was the perfect person to run the community center? Emma's reassuring grip pulsed warmth into her palm, reminding Sarah of her mission. "I think it's a friend," she whispered to Emma, her voice barely above a breath. Emma raised an eyebrow, curiosity intertwined with concern. "You know you can't let anything distract you right now. We've got this." The CEO's daughter was speaking again, her confidence like a powerful pulse in the room. "So, for the pilot program, how do you foresee engaging with the local schools?" With that, Sarah fought the internal battle. She had been preparing for this moment for too long to let outside stress sideline her now. But what if Mia was in trouble? "It's okay," she whispered to herself, absorbing the moment. "Focus on the families." Taking a deep breath, she responded to the CEO's daughter, "We plan to collaborate with schools to integrate these programs into their after-school schedules, ensuring kids remain engaged and safe." As the conversation continued, Sarah felt herself drifting. The thought of Mia weighed heavily in her mind. Was she struggling at home? Was she facing another crisis? Images of her friend's gentle smile mixed with anxiety creased her brow. Finally, there was a lull in dialogue. The CEO's daughter leaned back in her chair, processing Sarah's ideas. Seizing her chance, Sarah glanced at her phone discreetly, searching for any further messages. Nothing, just that one text. "Are you with us, Sarah?" The CEO's daughter's voice cut through. Her brow furrowed slightly as concern flickered across her face. You seem a little distracted. Heat pricked Sarah's cheeks, embarrassment flooding her. She could never afford to appear unprepared. I'm sorry. Just managing a few things. Can you repeat what you just said? The moment hung thick in the air. Emma's supportive aura surrounded her, yet it felt as if the walls themselves were pressing her a reminder of everything she stood to gain or lose. The CEO's daughter nodded, her expression softening. Let us pivot a bit. I admire your passion and commitment. It's crucial. She paused, allowing Sarah to absorb the significance of her words. But I also need to know that you're focused. Absolutely, Sarah said. And she meant it. The mission was bigger than her nerves or any other external troubles. As they delved back into the meeting, Sarah found herself channeling energy from the words she had practiced thousands of times. The plans were alive in her hands, and hope ignited her every phrase. But as they began to discuss potential community outreach strategies, her phone buzzed again, this time with urgency. It was another message from Mia. This one was short, please answer. I'm scared. Suddenly, everything froze. The room blurred around her, and Sarah felt the weight of the world pressing upon her. Would she throw away this opportunity? Or was she compelled to help a friend in need? Behind her, Emma whispered encouragement, but the stakes had changed. Sarah's decision felt monumental, and she needed to make it now. Could she balance both? Or would one of these pivotal moments slip through her fingers, irrevocably changing the course of her life? The duality of her world narrowed upon her, and she took a deep breath, knowing the choice before her would reshape everything. How could she ever decide which path held more power? Her phone buzzed once again, and Sarah's pulse quickened. Each vibration felt like a hammer driving nails into the already fragile foundation of her focus. She stole another glance at the screen, the faint glow illuminating the concerned expression on her face as she caught Emma watching. Time seemed to distort. The sound of voices faded into a dull thrum, replaced by a single heartbeat, hers. Sarah, are you sure you're all right? Emma's whisper broke through the silence, eyes scanning the room with shrewd intuition. With a determined yet shaky breath, Sarah turned her attention back to the CEO's daughter. This was her moment, yet her heart clung to one thought. Mia needs me. The urgency of that thought was contagious, it knotted her stomach yet ignited a fire in her chest. Yes. I am, she affirmed, stealing confidence from the energy that swirled around the room. This pilot program is a lifeline for our community. It's wonderful. The CEO's daughter interjected, nodding appreciatively. But tell me, how do you handle unforeseen emergencies? Like from the families you'll serve? A question rooted in reality. Sarah's gut twisted. How could she keep her focus on this opportunity when Mia's panic loomed larger? Well, she stumbled slightly. I suppose flexibility and rapid response, the words felt like cotton in her mouth. She wasn't just trying to convince them, she was trying to convince herself. No one knew the families or the struggles quite like Sarah did, and somewhere deep inside, she felt an enduring need to honor that truth. But what if Mia was in true danger? What if Sarah's absence changed everything for her friend? In that blink, her choice was as clear as day. Sarah would have to escape this moment, not just for herself, but for Mia. The meeting could continue without her, it wasn't the end of the world if she stepped away. Excuse me, she said, her voice surprising even herself, I have to take this. Sarah. Emma whispered, a mix of disbelief and anxiety etched across her features. But the urge to connect with Mia overcame any desire for validation in that conference room. With swift determination, Sarah slipped out of the room, her heart pounding in rhythm with each hurried step. She found a quiet corridor and pressed her back against the cool wall, fingers trembling as she dialed Mia's number, her mind racing a mile a minute with possible scenarios. After a few rings, Mia answered, her voice shaky and raw. Sarah. I'm so glad you picked up. I didn't know what else to do. Mia, Sarah soothed, trying to calm the frantic energy that flooded through her phone. What's wrong? I need your help. Can you come over? It's about my mom. She's not okay. I can't do this alone. A chill raced down Sarah's spine, and she felt a wave of tugging emotions dance at the edges of her mind. Okay, I'll be there. Just hold on. She hung up and stared at her phone, a million thoughts swirling. How much could she really help? Did she have it in her to handle this situation and still pursue her dreams? But the truth was, she couldn't ignore Mia or her family. This was bigger than any career opportunity. Yet a tension tightened in her chest. She thought of the meeting she had just left, and decided she couldn't simply abandon it. It mattered too much. Still standing there with her heart racing, a fateful question echoed in her mind: how would her life change if she chose to prioritize her friend over her ambition? As she stepped out of the corridor, another question hung unspoken in the air: was she strong enough to carry both burdens? The hard choice she'd have to face could shift the trajectory of not only her friendship but her entire future. Sarah took one last deep breath and stepped back toward the meeting room, determination glistening in her eyes. Would she be able to balance her commitment to Mia and her aspirations? The weight of it all hung heavy, and as the door to the meeting room loomed closer, the churning of her heart promised that this was only the beginning of a much larger story. Sarah stood at the threshold, heart pounding, the weight of her choices pressing down on her. The glowing possibility of her dreams collided painfully with the urgency of Mia's call for help. But as she opened the door to the meeting room, resolve surged within her like an electric current. Emma looked up the moment Sarah re-entered. Concern etched across her face, she leaned forward. You okay? I had to step out for a minute, Sarah said, feeling the room's eyes shift towards her, anticipation hanging thick in the air. A friend needs me. The CEO's daughter noticed the sudden change in Sarah's energy. Do you want to take a moment? This is important. But Sarah shook her head firmly. No, I want to be here, for you, for all of us. A warmth spread in her chest. Turning to the gathered families, she took a deep breath, her voice steadying. I know things feel overwhelming. It's scary to jump in and trust that we can make this work together. I just want you all to know I'm here for you. And I'm ready to fight for this center, for our community. As she spoke, the atmosphere in the room shifted once again. Determination replaced hesitation, like a wildfire igniting in dry grass. She could see heads nodding, encouragement sparking in the crowd, and she felt that same fire turn to steam within her, a powerful blend of support and camaraderie. Let us bring our ideas together again, she continued, her heart pounding with conviction. We need to show that we're more than just individuals. We're a neighborhood, and we're in this fight together. Emma beamed at her, support radiating from her every glance. Exactly. We're building a future. Together. Together. The crowd echoed back. There was a collective charge in the air, an electric buzz that began to swell with renewed hope. Mr. Lawson watched intently, nodding slowly as energy swirled in the room. If you're ready to step into this level of community involvement and investment, then we're all ears. Fueled by momentum, Sarah felt some of her fears diffuse. They began brainstorming again, each idea flooding through the room like a refreshing breeze. They devised workshops, planned activities, and a series of fundraisers that would bring people together. Sarah was surprised by the depth of ideas flowing from others, a host of contributions that seemed to multiply the strength of their collective resolve. As the meeting closed, she glanced back at Emma, who was sparkling with pride. Did you feel that? Emma breathed, her excitement infectious. Yes. This is really happening. Sarah laughed, relief flooding her as possibilities blossomed around them. Days turned into weeks, filled with planning meetings and late-night brainstorming sessions, but the excitement never waned. Sarah felt herself transforming alongside the center. She wasn't just fighting for survival, she was carving out a piece of her life that made her feel alive, an agent of change. Finally, the day of their first community fundraiser arrived. The center was buzzing, filled with music and laughter, families gathering in droves. Each person brought handmade dishes for a potluck and talents for the show. The atmosphere pulsed with joy, camaraderie wrapped around them like a warm blanket. As Sarah looked around, she spotted familiar faces at every corner. The families who had once cast her doubtful glances now cheered, supportive and unified. Joy bubbled within her, and tears of happiness brimmed in her eyes. "Mom!" Anna squealed, tugging Sarah's arm. "Can I sing on stage?" "Of course, sweetheart." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with pride. Sarah watched Anna dance with Benny and other kids, their laughter weaving through the air. It felt real. It felt like home. In the midst of the evening, the CEO's daughter arrived, joining the festivities with sincerity that shone in her smile. "Sarah, this is incredible. You've really brought the community together." "I couldn't have done it without everyone," Sarah replied, glancing around, her chest filled with gratitude. "You've helped too, showing us the way." As the lights dimmed, Sarah held her breath. Anna took the mic, her sweet voice filling the space. The crowd cheered, and Sarah felt something shift inside her. This was everything she had fought for: a community, a future, a legacy. When the event concluded, and laughter faded into quiet, Sarah felt a wave of satisfaction envelop her. She had turned the uncertainty into strength, embraced her fears, and fought for not just her dreams, but for her community's heart. And on that quiet side of the evening, as she held her children close, a realization washed through her. True change happens when you connect with others, when you embrace the lives around you, both their struggles and successes. This journey was just the beginning. If you're enjoying the journey with us, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support and become part of our story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the love spreading. Comment your thoughts and feelings about this emotional journey, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your support is everything.